Like so many others, who you are is largely a result of your past. We have so many positive and not so positive experiences that we start to doubt ourselves and our place in this world. Let the healing process start now. Welcome to Shift Happens with Karin Weary. When you start to focus on healing from the inside out, you'll learn so much more about your own health, your well-being, and your state of mind. Once you've started on that, the rest gets a little bit easier every day. Now, here is your host, Karin Weary.
Hello and welcome to Shift Happens. I am your host, Karin Weary, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and breakthrough life coach. One of my favorite things to do is to truly bring healing to people's lives because so much of what is going on and that is not going well in this world really truly starts with um, wounds that haven't been healed, emotional wounds, physical wounds, all of these different kinds of things. When people don't feel good, they don't feel whole, they are really acting out and usually reacting rather than responding. Those are two different things. And this just seeps out and affects every single aspect of our life, our personal life, our intimate lives, our relationships with our kids, our relationships with our friends, at work, in our careers. And so it really is, if you really want to get to the root of things and get things better in your entire life, it truly starts with healing yourself. And that's really what the intro is all about. It's something that, is my life mission to do for myself. And as I am doing this for myself, I am able to learn how to do this for others, of course, as well as with my professional training. But, the professional training theoretically doesn't do a whole lot until you start going out and acting it on it. And there's nothing like people who say, do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, that doesn't go very well because you can always tell whether it's consciously or subconsciously where somebody is, if they're doing their own work or they're not, because you're going to be able to get so much deeper and more thorough when you're working with somebody who's really doing the work themselves because they know it. They know what it looks like and know what it feels like and they know what needs to be done. And today's topic is about couples intensives. So, what is couples intensives? It's kind of like a couples retreat, and where you and your partner are just the only two people. And there are three different scenarios I'm going to talk about where this can really be beneficial. So, basically, you can take 1 to 3 days, some intensives are 4 days. Uh, you carve that out of your schedule and really dedicate that to you as a couple. And and so the some of the benefits, there's so many benefits, but many times when people they decide, okay, and let's go ahead and take this time out, we're going to reach out, we're going to call a therapist, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this. There's a lot of resistance to that in the first place, and just because people don't really like to do this. For the most part, it feels uncomfortable. What is that going to do for us in the first place? I don't want to talk about this stuff. And so there's all of that resistance that people have to get through. And then there's the busy lives, busy schedules, busy careers, busy taking care of kids and all of that. So then you squeeze all of this into, one little hour once a week, and then you dash out of the office and off you go into your busy, busy, busy life. And then many times things don't get implemented. And that's not to say that there isn't really great work that gets done on the once a week, hour long session, because I certainly have been there, done that, and see amazing things happen with my couples. So it is entirely possible. However, you can cram all of that into like 6 months worth of working once a week with somebody and cram it into 1 to 3 days and really knock it out. Because also what's happening is that you truly are dedicating that time and the focus is on you. And this is something that I think we miss so much in our busy days, in our busy lives, is to really allow ourselves and honor ourselves and do take the time out to really do more deeper healing work. And what comes from that is yeah, see, I think sometimes people don't realize if you haven't experienced healing, then it can be hard to understand what it all is. But I'm telling you, it goes from pain, aggravation, annoyance, high stress, that always being on edge to wow, relief, literally like weight coming off of your shoulders. And peace, being grounded, feeling like you have a partner. In many cases in a relationship, you often don't feel as though you have a partner. I've been in that situation. So the three particular times I'm going to talk about today where doing a couples intensive could really be beneficial is one, if there's a crisis. So maybe you found out that your partner had an affair, whether it was a physical, sexual affair or an emotional affair, because that's just as damaging as the physical affair. Or, it could be another crisis. Two, where your relationship has just gotten to this stalemate. It's kind of like, okay, well, maybe you're not arguing and you're not having a lot of crises or anything like that, but there's also no life in it. You don't feel connected. You just sort of live parallel lives. I've been in that relationship. I've been in that marriage. It was not a good thing. And number three, if you have a good relationship, but you want to really dedicate some time to spice it up and make it even better and prevent going into stalemate or having crisis. Because if you ever heard me talk before, one of my favorite words is prevention. Prevention is so much better than trying to go back and fix things. We can go back and fix things, but really, I mean, by then you have built up so much pain, so much um, resentment, and so much anger, so much hurt that it can be really hard to backtrack. It can be done. Trust me, I have worked with couples where there was an affair and it was really bad, and they now have come together and have the best marriage they have ever had, way better than before. Because here's the thing, affairs don't come out of the blue. They don't usually come from a great marriage. If you have a great marriage, even if it's good, there's something missing, and that's what people go off and they find somewhere else. So, yeah, so I'm going to talk about what is an intensive, what are those three different scenarios where your marriage, your couple, your relationship you don't have to be legally married, um, could really benefit from, investing in this intensive. So that means investing time and investing money because, it think about all the things that you invest money in. And this is one of the things, many times, people go on, they buy expensive cars, they go out and buy jet ski, they go out and do all kinds of things. And those are fun. Trust me, I love all that. But what is that really doing for the quality of life, your day to day life? You are living your day to day life with this partner, this person that you live with, that you are choosing to build a life with, and that you go to bed with every night, you know? And so you're not gonna sleep with the car, you're not gonna sleep with the jet ski, you're gonna sleep with this other person. So I personally think, and having experienced many of these different situations, that it's so worth making that relationship really top notch golden, to where you are a team, you have a partner, that this other person is your rock. This is the first time in my life that I've had that, and and my partner, and I wouldn't, change that out for anything in the world. You can't give me any cars, you can't give me any jet ski, you can't give me anything that I would swap that out for, because it fills me with so much peace and calm and comfort to have what I always was talking about, that warm, soft place to come home to. When you come home, and it doesn't, this is not all about, this particular show is about relationships, obviously. So obviously it's going to be about relationships. Doesn't mean that you can't be single and have a great life. So that's not what I'm talking about here at all. But there's nothing better than coming home and knowing that no matter what's happened in your day, whether it was good or was bad, because if it's good, you go home and you celebrate with this person. If it was bad, then oh God, let me just leave this behind and just give me a big hug, and it's all forgotten. It'll all melt away. So when you have that, that is just incredible. And I would love for every one of you to have that in your life. So let's go ahead and go with, well, first of all, let's go over in general what happens with an intensive. So, first of all, what I have people do is to complete a really in depth assessment, and each person does that on their own. You don't want to have the other one influence. You don't want to influence your responses because the other person is watching, because then it's not going to be a good realistic look at what's going on. And this assessment is done on real research that's based on 40 plus years of research. So this is going to really point out, these are strengths in the relationship and these are issues that are in the relationship, so that we can really go in and hit those points. Because we don't just want to look at, of course, the bad things. We also want to really know what are the strengths, because we tend to look at the things that are going wrong and really hyper focus on that. Which, of course, in the intensive, we're going to look at that. We're going to work on that. We're going to make those strengths, I mean, those weaknesses, areas that will turn into strengths. So when we do a post test, then we can see what kind of progress we've made in those areas. And we will have a session before, whether in person or live, and or on Zoom or whatever, video, and then we meet, for, depending on your situation, what the situation is, and spend 8 hours a day, and there are going to be breaks in there, where we are really going to be able to delve in. And again, because now you can truly leave, everything behind. You're off of work. You don't have to worry about the kids, because obviously this has all been planned out. If you have kids, somebody's taking care of the kids. So you don't have to watch the time and, oh my gosh, I got to get going, this, that, and the other, because this is your time to dedicate to yourself and you and your partner. And then we are going to really figure out what all is going on. And you are going to learn a lot of skills, which a lot of this is skills. We'll go ahead and figure out how to make this a safe place to have these conversations. And there's so many different things that are going to go into this. And it's going to be individualized to you and what your specific situation is, all based on what you're bringing to the table, and as well as this very in-depth analysis that's been done before we meet for the actual intensive. So So one of the situations may be if in situation number one, where if there is a crisis in the relationship. So it could be, like I said, it could be an affair. Maybe you discovered that your partner had an affair. Again, that could be either a physical affair or an emotional affair. And in fact, I don't know, did you know that up to 40%, 41% of men and women admit to having an emotional affair at some point in their relationship? That is a huge, gigantic number. But again, I want to emphasize the fact that an affair does not have to be the end of the relationship. It can, in fact, in some cases, when both people decide to truly uh, go ahead and heal this, can in fact lead to a much, much better relationship than you ever had in the first place. But again, it's always up to you and it's up to both parties. Both parties have to participate and be on board and really uh, commit to the relationship and to the other person and to the process of doing their own work. Also, if you've ever heard me, I am always going to talk about it's always an inside job. So that part is so huge when people take responsibility for their own part in the relationship and in how you show up in life and in the relationship, then that is going to be the turning point 100% every single time. So we are going to roll into a few messages. So you definitely want to hang on and come back in because you don't know if you know somebody that maybe there's some people that are kind of pinging in your minds like, "Ooh, my friend and my mom and my brother," or whatever kind of people are popping up in your head that are have been talking about some of these things. Oh yeah, their relationship is struggling. Then this is might be something that you can share with them, and to know that there is a way out, there is a way to make things better and heal and you know bring this relationship to a much better place. So you can reach me at, you can find me on my website, www.insightscounselingcenter.com. You can call me at 386-848-5170. That's my direct number. You can find me on Facebook under Karen Weary or Insights Counseling Center. You can also find me on LinkedIn and for Karen Weary. Lots of different places you can find me. And we are going to roll into a few messages and then we will be right back with more on what and when is an intensive right for you.
And we're clear.
You are listening to Shift Happens with Karen Weary. Do you have a question or comment about today's program? If so, we'd love to hear from you. Call in to the live show at 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send an email to karenw@insightscounselingcenter.com. Remember that Karen is spelled Karin. Now, back to Shift Happens.
Yes, indeed. We are making shift happen as always on this show. I am your host, Karen Weary. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and life coach. And I love to make shift happen in your life because when you are ready for it, boy, oh boy, can we do a lot to make your life so much better. Just totally rocketed into outer space. And the thing is that when we do some healing, and sometimes that really, I'm telling you, it just changes everything in your life. All of those little aggravations, all of those things that just the hurts and the aches and the pains and all of that, and we can make all of that go away when you dedicate some time and attention to make some true changes in your life. And that's one of the things that we are talking about today with couples intensives, because many people, take the traditional route of, coming into seeing a professional, in this case, let's just say a therapist once a week for an hour, and we're going to talk about some things and work on some things, and then you're going to go home, you're going to practice some things, and we can get a lot done that way. However, sometimes it can take several months. And depending on the issues, sometimes, especially when we're talking about couples, sometimes it can take a long time because we're talking about two people who both are doing their own thing, and getting them on the same page and getting on back into, okay, let's have win-win situations and create a safe place, and everybody has their own background and such, and that can take a little bit longer time than, when I work with people individually. It's a lot less complicated because we're talking about one person with all of their stuff, and we can go in and we can knock out some things with the modality that I use. And and that's something that I also use sometimes individually when I work with couples. I will separate them out sometimes and do some specific targeted work to knock out some of their old wounds that really get triggered in the couple relationship, because sometimes we just are carrying our own baggage from previous life situations, previous relationships, childhood stuff that is still hanging out there and getting triggered and like raw nerve endings. And then this other person comes in totally innocent, totally without any intentions whatsoever of wanting to hurt this person. They just want to love on the other person. But because this person has been treated a certain way, had certain things happen, and then it's been frozen in their brain this way. Now, this person is totally well meaning, just loving on the other person, and person A, who is hurt and carrying their own baggage in, it perceives it in a different way, that they're being hurt, and so then they flare up and they react, and it's not a good thing. And so we can really take care of a lot of that, and then that makes the couple work so much easier. And that's something that also can be added into when we're doing an intensive. We can go in, we can knock out something, and then come back together as a couple. And with the other person has a little bit of a break. And then we can, because let's say, for example, in the case of an affair, that many times, obviously, the person that was not the person who had the affair, obviously is hurt. The trust is broken. They are emotionally in pain, reeling in pain many times. Oh my God, where did this come from? What caused it? Is there something wrong with me? All of these are questions that are going on. What did I do to push him away or her away? And what do I need to do to prevent that from happening again? And there's so much pain there. And it can be really hard for this person to move on because they're just trying to protect themselves. And that's where many times I suggest working with the person who was the person who didn't have the affair. I'm not sure what to call that person. So, because that was a trauma to that person. And, I have actually experienced many times that that person kind of takes offense. It's like, what? Like, you want to work with me? That's the person who has a problem. They need to be in therapy so that they don't do this again. That they had to be punished for that. But therapy is not a punishment. Therapy is healing. So when you take it as that, then this is helping so that you do not have to carry that pain and get it triggered all the time. It's a lot to carry around, and it's hard whether you stay in this relationship or move on. Those triggers are going to be there, and they're going to get in the way of creating and building a healthy new relationship. Whether it's a new relationship with the partner who had the affair on you, and you decide that we're going to work this out and make a better relationship, or whether you decide to split up and have other relationships, that is going to show up. Trust me, if you do not do your work. And that's not a good thing to be carrying around and bringing into your new improved relationship or a new other relationship. So so that's something that I think is really important to do that piece. And how effective are you in really having conversations when you're reeling from hurt? It's really difficult because you're flooded with emotions, and which clouds our thinking, and and many times we're just angry and we're spewing anger out at the other person, and that's totally. Whoops, sorry. There goes my little frequency device. That program is done. so, um, so yeah, and so instead of pouring more fuel on the fire by trying to fight this thing out by yourselves, what it can be really helpful is to have a neutral trained professional there to be able to kind of create a much more productive conversation, to create healthy boundaries in having this conversation so that we can get to the real meat of things and figure out what is going to happen from here. So, because there's so much involved, there's so much involved in how do we rebuild trust? How do we move over from here? How am I going to be able to move on and ever let you out of my sight again? How am I not going to put a tracker on you and watch you everywhere you go? Yeah, and and what was it that really caused the person to seek, whether again it was physical, affirmation or emotional affirmation outside of this relationship? Something happened that made the two, you know, turn away from each other, or one turn away from the other. And so I'm working with a couple where they realized that they were not spending any time together. So they were working full time. Then the one person got another job, and second job on top of that, and then also was, doing personal things. And so they really didn't spend time together. And when they were together, then they were, like sharing a meal together. They were sitting in front of the TV. So again, they were not connecting. So they weren't unhappy. The person who had the affair was happy in the relationship. It's just lost connection, and there was this other person that was there at one of their jobs, and voila, started connecting with that person because they were spending time there, not watching TV, not doing other things, and there you go. So something happened in this relationship. So obviously we need to figure out what is that and how can we develop that? How do we make this connection happen? Um, and and again, a lot of this has to do with actual skills and paying more attention and really learning how to listen to the other person and how to put how to word things. This something that's called a soft startup and having a conversation. And what that means is where you bring something up at the right time in the right scenario with the right words, not as in they're wrong words, but as in wording it in a way that it doesn't feel like an attack. Like, you always do this. That would not be something that the other person, if you hear those words spoken like that, you're not very likely to be very receptive to hearing this person out. You're going to probably go in defense mode, right? And instead, look, honey, I really miss spending time with you. We have been so busy, and I feel like I don't even know who you are. I mean, I really miss connecting with you and having time with you. When can we sit down and have a conversation? I just want to know kind of what's going on with you and really reconnect. If you hear that, how does that sound to you compared to the other person? You're never here. We never have a conversation. That statement is really something that is like, well, why would I if you're coming at me like that? The other way that I shared, that sounds much more inviting, right? It's like if I'm starting it with I miss you, I miss spending time with you, I really want to connect with you. That's something that I want to, yeah, I want to connect with you. So, and so when you make yourself a place and an energy, you show up in your relationship in a way that is inviting and is a nice place to be. This is where, you are and this is what I do as a therapist and as a coach in coaching each individual in how to get that space. There's a couple I've worked with for a long time where I was really very much harping on being kind and sharing appreciation and being, really focusing in on that. And there was some resistance there. It was funny because there was a lot of the well, if I'm being kind, then I just feel like I'm losing my like losing my face, kind of losing in a way, whereas I come off as being weak, and the person didn't really like that. And it took a while of really encouraging that. I was massaging that little part of the brain and the psyche of, all right, well, that's good, but try it out anyway. Think about how you would like it. And when your partner talks to you like that, what do you notice about yourself? So really, I work a lot with helping people zoom out a little bit and observe themselves also, because that is another skill that we really need in as a couple, in relationships, to zoom out and see ourselves from a different aspect, so that we can kind of notice these things. And a lot of that, none of that really happens when we are in a crisis situation, because all we can see is the crisis. It doesn't have to be an affair. It could be maybe something happened with your child. It could be, a betrayal, or could be a lot of different things. That was the actual crisis. So what about in a stalemate situation? um so a stalemate is a situation, is where in the couple scenario are just not really connecting anymore. You're not arguing, but you are just not having fun. You're not having stimulating conversation. You're probably not having sex either. And it's just kind of like roommates. And if a marriage can, and a couple relationship can get to that place, and many times you're convincing yourself of, well, but we're okay. Things aren't that bad. I mean, it's not like we're arguing like so and so. It's not like, these people over here, they have a horrible relationship. Oh my God, that's just terrible. And if you're legally married, well, what about the kids? And what about, might be some other reasons why, you are not wanting to break this up. But it's just nothing's really going on in this relationship. And this is where, maybe again, just because you didn't have, a lot of us don't really have good relationship skills, because it's not something that's taught. It's something that's has to be modeled. And so if your parents didn't have that, and their parents didn't, usually it's generational. It's not a class that's taught in school, should be, because it's pretty darn important. And so we learn what we see. This is just how things are. And so, again, also think about, if you have children, how huge of an impact it has when you and your partner can figure things out, and you show your kids how to have real powerful solid relationships. That's going to be paid forward in future generations, because now your kids are going to have you as role models. that they're going to go out and they're going to live their relationships like that, most likely. And then so on and so forth. So with their kids and their kids and their kids. So this is hugely impactful. So think about that as well when you consider what you want to do in order to get your relationship much better. It's truly an investment in the future. So we are going to have to roll into a few messages again, and then we'll come back and talk more about intensives. Who is it for? What will it do for you? And talk about the last situation where it can be beneficial. Right after these messages, you're not going to want to miss this last part.
You are listening to Shift Happens with Karin Weary. Do you have a question or comment about today's program? If so, we'd love to hear from you. Call in to the live show at 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send an email to karinw@insightscounselingcenter.com. Remember that Karin is spelled Karin. Now, back to Shift Happens.
Hello and welcome back. Thank you for tuning into Shift Happens. I am your host, Karin Weary, licensed marriage and family therapist and breakthrough life coach. Today, we are talking about couples intensives. Who is that for? Why would you want to do that? And how can it benefit? And this is something that is truly based on 40 plus years of research, where why would you take a day, 2 days, 3 days out of your schedule to totally dedicate 100% on your relationship? Well, guess what? This relationship is affecting your financial health, your physical health, your mental health, your kids' lives currently and their future generations. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So when you think about it from that aspect, wow, this is so unbelievably powerful. Honestly, the best, most powerful thing you can do is to invest in this relationship. So much more important than the fun car and the jet ski and all those other things. Because once you got this right, then yeah, go off and get all those other fun things because now you're really going to be able to go out there and enjoy them because now you got you two right. So did you know that just having 2 arguments per week is something that keeps you and your household in a constant state of tension? Wow, right? That is incredible. So here's the thing. Your kids pick up on it. They pick up on everything. Everybody is on edge. There's no real peace. It's just a truce. Now, this is something that impacts your nervous system. It impacts your immune system. And, you're never able to resolve these incidences. It becomes this repetitive argument that is never resolved and these hurts that are never healed. It's kind of like, have you ever had this experience of uh, having a conversation, or just feeling like you're not being heard, you're not being understood, they're just not getting it. And it's so incredibly frustrating. It's, that frustrated feeling. And have you ever then had the opposite experience where you're talking to somebody and you feel totally heard and, yeah, valued and understood? And what incredible peace comes with that? I'm telling you. So imagine having that with your life partner. Well, like I was saying, is invaluable. That's going to help bring your nervous system to a much better place. It's going to boost your immune system. Who doesn't need a really good immune system? Always. We all do. And let me tell you, I was just back from my holistic doctor, and my immune system is like super duper strong. I mean, I already knew that, but now I have the numbers to back it up, and the doctor's saying, "Yeah, you look really good on the inside." So, yay. But that goes with doing all of these things that help heal me and keep me and prevent all these things that I do not want in my life. And so now all relationships have regrettable incidences. And this is where we said something we didn't mean, or it was taken in a way that we didn't intend, or maybe we just blurted something out and oh my God, now that was not what I meant. And so these kinds of things happen. So how do we come back from these kinds of regrettable incidences? And again, this is where what comes from, these 40 plus years of research based on uh, um, skills and training that I have gotten, where I teach people how to come back, how to have these real conversations that are productive rather than the tit for tat. And this is the thing where with this one couple that I mentioned before, where I was really encouraging the kindness, and they had so much tit for tat. Well, I did this and you did that, and because I did this, now you have to do that, and I've done too much and you haven't done enough, and this, that, and the other. It was like, oh my God, it's like, I tease them sometimes. It's kind of like you're in kindergarten, you having a very that you are way too intelligent and way too above having this level of conversation. And let me tell you, it is so beautiful to see where they are now. They're true partners and really backing each other up. And it's amazing to see. So it is entirely possible to get there. And, it's kind of like ignoring these things is like, driving your car and then the light in the dashboard comes on that says, you need an oil change or you need some sort of maintenance. And you ignore it. And, maybe you can go 10,000 miles past when you were supposed to have your oil change, but you keep going on to 50,000 miles past it, 100,000 miles past it, and you haven't done anything. I don't know at what point your car is going to stop working, but guess what? The same thing goes for your relationship. When you ignore those kinds of things, minimize them, ugh, that's just annoying. I don't have time for this. It's just takes too much time. It's not possible to make it better. They're just being too picky. You're just too sensitive. All those different kinds of things. Guess what? It's going to come and bite you in the butt when you do that. So, the thing is that we do need to go in and get that oil change done, sooner the better, right? And that way, that car that you are spending all this money on is going to keep you going and keep going and not break down on the middle of the highway. And that is the same thing for your relationship. So, um, yeah, and so this is the thing is that when we resolve these things that have been triggers, or, this argument that we had that just hurt you to the core, and it comes up, and then, you keep bringing up the past, we can be done with that and get you moving forward. So the last situation is where you have a good relationship, but you want to make it even better. You want to learn how to keep things going in that direction, and prevent the stalemate and prevent the crisis, prevent not having it even go to where you're turning away from each other, but you learn how to continue to turn towards each other and to be each other's rock, to be each other's, partner, and and to be teammates. And this is so much fun because this is where we really get to explore and play and have fun. And while we're exploring and playing and having fun, learning these tools that and skills that are, you know, and it's much easier to put into place when you're already in a good place, when you're having fun. And just taking again that time out. Everybody needs that time out to get reconnected. Even when you live together and you see each other every day, but the way most people's lives are, you go to work and you're gone at work 10, 12, 14 hours between transportation back and forth and all that. And then maybe if you have kids, then you got to do kid stuff. You have to cook dinner, you have to do, and then you go to bed and then you get up and you do it all over again. And then maybe you have a day or two off together. Maybe you don't. Yeah, right now I'm in a situation we don't have the same days off. So we never get a whole day together unless we take time out to do that. And you can still have a strong relationship, but you really need to dedicate time to uh to to delve deep and reconnect. And this is where this time away can do that for you. And to really nurture this relationship that's already good, to make it even better and even juicier, just because you don't have all of that other stuff, all the busyness and all that stuff. You can relax. You don't have a schedule. You're going to show up. We're going to do some skills training. Like I said, we're going to play. We're going to, learn how to have fun together. And also, what do we do that, really get into those basic parts of the sound relationship house, which is what comes from the doctors John and Julie Gottman, and really strengthen each part of that sound relationship house. It starts with, having a friendship turning towards rather than away. It has to do with, how do we resolve conflicts? And, how do we build that trust and commitment? What are your life dreams? What are my life dreams? How do we support each other in reaching each other's life dreams? What does family mean to each of us? And how can we really, really support each other in building that life dream and combining what family means to us? And so that we really make sure that all of those pieces that go into building that sound relationship house remains sound and strong and solid. And your relationship and your kids and everybody who comes around you are going to feed off of the strengths that you have and show up with based on that. There is you can feel when somebody is in a good place. You can feel their energy because they have overflow from which they can give. Another one of my favorite quotes by Lisa, what? I forgot her name all of a sudden. Lisa something. Anyway, she always talks about how you have to give from your overflow, not from your cup, which means you have to give yourself so much self-care that you you have overflow. Because when you're giving from your cup, which most people do, that was meant for you. You need that in order to keep yourself going. And so that is one where the couple intensives can come in, to dedicate that time to you as a couple, to either get through a crisis, to maybe to build up, a relationship that's gone into stalemate, or to really strengthen and solidify an already good relationship so that you don't run into the first two examples. And think about what that does for not just the two of you as a couple, but for your health, for your mental health, your physical health, your kids, and future generations. It's phenomenal. You can reach me at insightscounselingcenter.com and on Facebook. And with that, I'm going to encourage you, reach out to me for questions, or if you want to know more about this, share with your friends and families. You probably have some people that popped up in your head that could probably benefit from this. And so that when you do this work, you can truly go out and shine your beautiful inner light. Because guess what? When you do that, your special talents that you came into this world with are going to be able to come out, and the world needs that.